The billionaire sneered. "I'll give you $1,000,000 if you serve me in Arabic." But the waitress's eloquent response left everyone speechless. "Your support is invaluable. Please like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue to share stories like this." Now let's get to today's story. Table 7 needs attention. The Arab billionaire. Samantha Adams nodded to her manager, straightening her red apron before heading to the corner table. Working at Lumiere, the most exclusive restaurant in Manhattan, meant dealing with the world's elite, movie stars, politicians, and billionaires who often treated the staff like furniture. But it paid the bills, and after what had happened at the UN 2 years prior, anonymity was precisely what she needed. The man at table 7 exuded wealth and authority. He was impeccably dressed in a midnight blue suit that probably cost more than she made in a year. He lounged in his chair like a king on his throne. His dark beard was meticulously groomed, framing full lips that seemed perpetually curved in amusement. 2 other men in similar attire flanked him, but they were clearly subordinates. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Lumiere. May I offer you something to drink to start?" Samantha's professional smile never wavered, despite the way his eyes were appraising her as if she were merchandise. Instead of responding, he turned to his companions and spoke to them in Arabic, which elicited laughter from the group. Samantha stood patiently, her face betraying nothing. She dealt with far worse. "A bottle of your 1982 Lafite Rothschild," he said finally, his accent subtle but still distinctive. "And perhaps you could recommend something special." His eyes lingered on her name tag, then returned to her face. "The chef's tasting menu is exceptional tonight, featuring a Wagyu beef course that's not on the regular menu," she replied smoothly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "I'm not interested in what everyone else gets."
I'm Karim Alahat.
"Perhaps you've heard of me." She hadn't, but nodded politely nonetheless. "Anyway, I own the Falcon Hotel Group." He paused, waiting for recognition to dawn. When it didn't, a flicker of irritation crossed his face. "I just acquired the building across the street. Soon, this whole block will be mine." "Congratulations, Mr. Alahad. I'll fetch that wine for you." Samantha turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Wait." His tone had changed, now carrying a challenging edge. The restaurant had grown quieter, as if sensing a spectacle brewing. "I have a proposition for you." His companions smirked, exchanging glances. Samantha's stomach tightened, but her expression remained neutral. "Sir?" Karim reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek leather wallet. With deliberate slowness, he removed a check and placed it on the table. $1 million. His voice carried just loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "If you can take my dinner order in Arabic." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the pianist in the corner had stopped playing. "That's inappropriate, sir," Samantha said quietly. "Is it?" Karim's smile widened. "I'm simply appreciating culture. Most Americans only speak one language." "Yes. Prove me wrong." $1 million. He tapped the check with a manicured finger. "Just a few sentences in Arabic. Or is that too difficult for a waitress?" The way he said waitress made it sound like the lowest profession imaginable. Heat crept up Samantha's neck, but not from embarrassment, from anger. He leaned back, triumphant at her silence. "As I thought. Well, the wine then." Samantha's Arabic flowed effortlessly, her pronunciation perfect. "I would like to take your order, sir. What would you like to eat this evening?" Karim froze, his smug expression vanishing. His companions looked equally stunned. She continued in Arabic, her voice gaining strength. "May I suggest our signature Wagyu beef? It's slow-cooked for 8 hours and seasoned with herbs imported from Morocco." The restaurant had gone completely silent. Every eye was on their table. Karim recovered first, responding in Arabic. "Where did you learn to speak with such a perfect dialect?" "Harvard University. Linguistics Department. I specialized in Semitic languages." Samantha switched back to English. "Will that be all, Mr. Alahad? Or would you like to hear my Farsi as well?" A flush crept up Karim's neck. You speak Farsi too? And French, Russian, and enough Mandarin to get by. She gestured to the check. Will you be paying that now or after your meal? The nearby diners erupted in whispers. One woman even applauded. Something shifted in Karim's eyes, the irritation giving way to genuine curiosity. Harvard linguistics, yet you're working as a waitress. Career changes happen. Samantha's smile tightened. Now, about that wine. As she turned, Karim called after her. The check is yours. I'm a man of my word. She paused, then looked over her shoulder. Keep your money, Mr. Alahad. I don't need your charity. The words tasted sweet as she walked away, head held high. Behind her, Karim Alahad stared in disbelief, perhaps for the first time in his adult life, completely at a loss for words. Karim couldn't take his eyes off her. The waitress, Samantha, according to her name tag, moved through the restaurant with quiet efficiency. Nothing in her demeanor suggested she was anything other than what she appeared to be. Yet she had just spoken to him in impeccable Arabic, with a regional accent he typically only heard in diplomatic circles. Should I have security look into her? Ahmed, his head of security, murmured beside him. Karim waved the suggestion away. No, but find out everything you can. His reputation for thorough research was legendary. No deal was signed, no property acquired without exhaustive background checks on all involved parties. Harvard linguistics to serving tables, he mused, swirling the ruby-red wine in his glass. There's a story there. The truth was Karim was bored. Building his hotel empire from the ruins of his father's business had consumed the past 10 years of his life. Now, at 32, he had achieved everything he had set out to do. The New York expansion was almost complete. His bid for the historic Drake building was nearly secured. Success had become predictable. But this woman, she was a mystery, and mysteries were rare in his world. When she returned with their appetizers, Karim observed her more carefully, noticing subtle details he had missed before. The way she carried herself, her perfect posture, the slight callus on her right middle finger, a writer's mark. Her hands moved with deliberate grace, placing each dish precisely. These are compliments of the chef, she said, presenting delicate plates of seared scallops with truffle foam. Please thank him for me. Karim maintained eye contact longer than necessary. And I apologize for my behavior earlier. It was ungentlemanly. Her expression revealed nothing. Enjoy your meal, sir. As she walked away, Ahmed leaned forward. I have preliminary information, he said quietly. Samantha Adams, 24 years old. Massachusetts driver's license shows a Cambridge address until 2 years ago. Then nothing until she appears in New York 14 months ago. Current address is in Queens. That's unusually light for you, Karim noted. It's unusually difficult information to find, Ahmed replied, almost as if her records have been professionally scrubbed. Karim finished the thought, his interest deepening. In his experience, people who erased their pasts had something significant to hide. The meal progressed, each course more exquisite than the last, but Karim barely noticed the food. His attention remained fixed on Samantha, watching her interact with other tables, noting how she subtly shifted between different personas to match each customer's expectations. When she brought their dessert, a deconstructed pistachio baklava with gold leaf, Karim decided to try again. Ms. Adams, I was wondering if I might ask you something. Her professional smile remained firmly in place. Of course, Mr. Alahad. Why would someone with your qualifications choose this profession? He kept his tone conversational, genuinely curious rather than condescending. Perhaps I enjoy it, she replied simply. Do you? A ghost of a real smile touched her lips. Some days more than others. And today has had its challenges. She glanced meaningfully at him. Karim found himself smiling in return, a genuine smile, not the practiced expression he used for business dealings. The check still stands. $1 million. No strings attached. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Why? Because I made a bet and lost. I'm a businessman, Ms. Adams. I honor my commitments. It wasn't a commitment. It was a joke at my expense. Then consider it compensation for my rudeness. She studied him for a long moment. Donate it to the International Refugee Education Fund. They do good work. Before he could respond, a commotion at the restaurant entrance drew their attention. A tall man with silver hair, dressed in an expensive suit, was arguing with the maitre d'. Even from across the room, Kareem could see the man was intoxicated. Samantha's entire demeanor changed in an instant. Her spine stiffened, and the color drained from her face. Without another word to Kareem, she turned and walked swiftly toward the kitchen. Kareem watched with interest as the maitre d' finally allowed the man inside. He stumbled slightly, scanning the restaurant with bloodshot eyes before focusing on Samantha's retreating back. "Some." His voice carried across the dining room. "Samantha Adams." She froze momentarily, then continued walking without looking back. The man started after her but was intercepted by the restaurant manager. "What's happening?" Faisal, Kareem's other dinner companion, asked. "I'm not sure," Kareem murmured, "but I intend to find out." He signaled Ahmed with a subtle gesture. His security chief rose smoothly and approached the developing situation, identifying himself to the manager with a discreet flash of credentials. After a brief conversation, Ahmed guided the intoxicated man toward the exit. By the time Samantha returned to their table, the incident was over. If not for the tightness around her eyes, she might have appeared completely composed. "Is everything all right?" Kareem asked. "Yes. Will there be anything else, gentlemen?" Kareem hesitated, then decided against pressing the matter. "Just the check, the real one," he added with a small smile. As she processed his payment, Kareem made a decision. He wrote a different amount on the tip line, $10,000, and signed with a flourish. "This is too much," she said when she saw it. "Consider it an investment in." "In what?" "A future conversation." He handed her his business card. "Call me if you ever decide you want more than this." Her eyes flashed. "Not all of us measure success by the size of our bank accounts, Mr. Alahad." "No? What's your measure, then?" She returned his card. "Integrity, something money can't buy." As she walked away, Kareem felt something unfamiliar stir within him. Respect mingled with fascination. He couldn't remember the last time anyone had spoken to him that way. "Sir," Ahmed said, returning to the table, "you should know something about that man." "Who was he?" "Victor Caldwell, former State Department official." Ahmed leaned closer. "And according to what I could find, Samantha Adams once worked directly for him. You need to leave now." Lisa, Samantha's roommate, stood in the doorway of their tiny Queens apartment, arms crossed. Behind her, suitcases were already packed. "What's going on?" Samantha had just finished an exhausting double shift, her encounter with Kareem Alahad overshadowed by Victor Caldwell's unexpected appearance. She had hoped to come home, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. "Two men were asking about you in the building." Lisa's voice trembled slightly. "Showing your picture. Dark suits, earpieces. They didn't look like police." Cold dread washed over Samantha. "Did they see you?" "No. Mrs. Petrover from 3B warned me." "Sam, you promised when you moved in that whatever you were running from wouldn't follow you here." "I know. I'm sorry." Samantha moved quickly, grabbing the emergency bag she kept in her closet. Passport, cash, burner phone, and the small gun she had hoped never to use again. "Is this about your old job? The one you never talk about?" Lisa demanded. Samantha paused, considering how much to reveal. Lisa deserved something after being such a good friend. "I used to work as a translator. I overheard something I shouldn't have. People died." She zipped up the bag. "That's all I can tell you." Lisa's expression softened. "Where will you go?" "Better if you don't know." "No." Samantha hugged her friend tightly. "I'll send money for rent until you find a new roommate." "Forget the rent. Just be safe." 20 minutes later, Samantha was in a taxi heading toward Brooklyn. She ditched her phone after sending one text to Marcus, her only contact from her previous life. He would understand the coded message. Weather turning bad. Seeking new climate. The past was catching up to her, just as she had feared. Victor showing up drunk at the restaurant wasn't a coincidence. After 2 years of looking over her shoulder, she had grown complacent, and now she would pay the price. The taxi dropped her at a busy intersection, and she walked 3 blocks before hailing another to throw off any potential tail. She checked into a small hotel using one of her alternate IDs, paid cash for 3 nights, and finally allowed herself to breathe. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Samantha tried to piece together what had happened. Victor appearing the same night as Karim Alahad couldn't be coincidental. But what was the connection? The Alahad name wasn't one she recalled from her time at the UN or State Department. Her phone buzzed, the burner. Marcus. Mutual friend asking questions. Not alone. Safe house compromised. Meet at the museum. Noon tomorrow. Samantha closed her eyes, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm her. Sleep would have to wait. She opened her laptop and began searching for information on Karim Alahad. The publicly available data painted a clear picture. 32 years old, born to a moderately successful Saudi businessman and an American mother, educated at Oxford, inherited his father's struggling hotel business at 22 when both parents died in a plane crash. Over the next decade, he transformed one mid-tier hotel into the Falcon Hotel Group, a global luxury chain with properties on 5 continents. What interested Samantha more was what she couldn't find. No scandals, no political affiliations, no suspicious business dealings that might connect to her past work. By all appearances, Karim Alahad was exactly what he claimed to be. A successful businessman with an arrogant streak. A knock at her door jolted her from her research. Samantha froze, hand moving to the gun in her bag. No one knew she was here. Ms. Adams. A male voice muffled through the door. I apologize for the late hour. She recognized the voice. Ahmed, Karim's security chief. How had they found her so quickly? I'm not here to harm you, he continued. Mr. Alahad would like to speak with you. It's important. Give me one reason why I should trust you. Samantha kept her voice steady, gun now in hand. Because Victor Caldwell was found dead an hour ago, and you're about to be framed for his murder. The world tilted beneath her feet. Victor, dead. Impossible. If you don't believe me, check the news, Ahmed said. Samantha grabbed her phone, finding a breaking news alert. Former State Department official found dead in Manhattan hotel. She approached the door cautiously. How did you find me? We followed the men who were following you. That made a twisted kind of sense. She peered through the peephole. Ahmed stood alone, hands visible and empty. Mr. Alahad is waiting in the car, he said. He believes he knows why this is happening, and he wants to help. Why would he help me? Because his parents' plane crash wasn't an accident, and he believes the same people who killed them are now coming for you. Samantha's mind raced. The connection she had been missing. It wasn't about her time at the UN. It was something earlier, from her father's diplomatic career. My father, she said suddenly. David Adams. He worked with the Saudi royal family in the 1990s. Ahmed nodded. He saved Karim's father during an attempted coup. Tonight, Mr. Alahad realized who you were. The pieces were falling into place with dizzying speed. Her father's mysterious death 5 years ago ruled a heart attack despite his excellent health. The classified files she had discovered at the State Department. The conversation she had overheard that had forced her into hiding. I need answers, she said finally. Mr. Alahad has some, Ahmed replied. And together you might find the rest. Samantha made her decision. She gathered her bag, tucked the gun into her waistband, and opened the door. Outside, a sleek black Bentley waited at the curb. As Ahmed opened the rear door, Samantha caught sight of Karim watching her, his expression grave. Gone was the arrogant businessman from the restaurant, replaced by someone altogether more dangerous. Ms. Adams, he said as she slid into the seat beside him. I believe we have a common enemy. And who would that be? His eyes met hers, dark with controlled fury. The same people who murdered our fathers and are now trying to tie up loose ends. starting with Victor Caldwell and ending with us. The car pulled away from the curb, carrying Samantha into yet another uncertain future, this time with the most unlikely of allies. We need to move quickly. Kareem's penthouse overlooked Central Park, the glittering cityscape a stark contrast to the tension filling the room. They'll realize you've disappeared soon enough. Samantha stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, arms crossed protectively over her chest. I'm still waiting for you to tell me who they are. Kareem poured 2 glasses of scotch, offering one to her. When she hesitated, he took a deliberate sip from her glass before handing it over. Trust issues. Understandable, given the circumstances. She accepted the drink but didn't taste it. My father, Ibrahim Alahad, wasn't just a hotelier. Kareem began, settling into a leather armchair. He was an intelligence asset for the American government, specifically working with the CIA's Middle Eastern Division throughout the 1990s. Samantha's eyes widened. My father was stationed in Riyadh during that time. Exactly. David Adams, cultural attaché. At least that was his cover. Kareem's gaze was steady. He was actually CIA, wasn't he? She remained silent for a long moment before nodding. Yes, but I didn't know that until after his death. Our fathers worked together to prevent a coup that would have destabilized the entire region. Your father saved mine during an assassination attempt in 1998. Kareem pulled out his phone, showing her a faded photograph. 2 younger men standing together, smiling. One was clearly Ibrahim Alahad, the other David Adams. I've never seen this, Samantha whispered, taking the phone. They became friends, not just assets and handlers. When my father married my American mother, your father was best man at their wedding. Kareem's voice softened. After the coup attempt failed, my father was relocated to London, where I was born. We returned to Saudi Arabia only after things had stabilized, but he maintained his connection to American intelligence. And this relates to Victor Caldwell how? Samantha asked, handing back the phone. Caldwell was State Department, but he had deep CIA connections. When my parents died in that plane crash 10 years ago, he was the one who handled the American side of the investigation, which concluded it was an accident. Except it wasn't, Samantha noted. Yes, except it wasn't. Kareem's jaw tightened. The official story was mechanical failure, but I've spent years gathering evidence that the plane was sabotaged by the same faction that attempted the coup years earlier. That's a serious accusation. I have proof. Kareem pulled a leather portfolio from his desk, spreading documents across the table. Bank transfers, encrypted communications, flight maintenance records that mysteriously disappeared from official reports. Samantha scanned the papers, her translators quickly picking up inconsistencies in the Arabic documents. These maintenance logs have been altered. Yes, and I believe Victor Caldwell was involved in the cover-up. Samantha's mind raced. When I worked at the UN as a translator, I overheard Caldwell discussing something called Operation Sandstorm with Saudi officials. I didn't understand the significance at the time, but when I mentioned it to him later, he became threatening. What exactly did you hear? Kareem leaned forward. Names, dates, something about Phase 2 being initiated. She swallowed hard. 2 weeks later, classified documents appeared in my secure diplomatic pouch. Files that implicated Caldwell and others in selling intelligence to Saudi extremists. The same extremists who tried to overthrow the government my father helped protect, Kareem said grimly. I took the documents to my superior. 3 days later, he died in a robbery gone wrong. That's when I ran. Samantha's hands trembled slightly. I changed my identity, disappeared. I thought I was being paranoid until your father died of a convenient heart attack. Kareem finished softly. Tears pricked her eyes. How did you know? Because that's their signature. My mother's brother died the same way 6 months after my parents. Clean, untraceable. Samantha finally took a long swallow of scotch. So, Victor's death wasn't your fault. It was a message. They're cleaning house, eliminating everyone who might connect them to Operation Sandstorm.
Karim's eyes met hers.
Including us. Why now? After all this time? Because the final phase is approaching. Kareem pointed to a document showing a complex transaction. They've been siphoning billions from Saudi sovereign wealth funds for years, using shell companies and cryptocurrency to hide the money. Next week, those funds are scheduled to be transferred to accounts controlled by former Saudi intelligence officials, the same ones who orchestrated the coup attempt 25 years ago. And they're planning to use that money for what, exactly? To finance something big, something that would destabilize not just Saudi Arabia, but the entire Middle East. Kareem's expression darkened. I've been tracking their movements, their purchases, weapons, mercenaries. They're planning a coordinated strike across multiple countries. Samantha felt the blood drain from her face. How could they possibly pull that off without intelligence agencies knowing? Because they have allies inside those agencies, including Caldwell. The implications were staggering. Samantha paced the room, mind racing furiously. We need to take this to the authorities. And tell them what? That a Saudi hotelier and an American waitress have uncovered an international conspiracy? Kareem's laugh was bitter. We'd be dismissed as paranoid or silenced before we could speak. Then what do you suggest? We find concrete proof linking them to Caldwell's murder and Operation Sandstorm. Evidence so irrefutable that even their allies in government can't ignore it. And where exactly do we find this proof? Kareem's smile was dangerous. The annual Falcon Charity Gala is tomorrow night at my flagship hotel. Mohammed bin Rashid will be there, the man I believe orchestrated my parents' death and this entire operation. You want to confront a terrorist at your own charity event? No, Kareem replied smoothly. I want to steal the evidence from his hotel suite while he's at my charity event. Samantha stared at him in disbelief. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. His security will be downstairs watching him. His suite will be vulnerable. That's insane. Even if we could access his room, what makes you think he'd bring incriminating evidence with him? Because I made sure he would. Kareem's eyes gleamed. I've spent 10 years building this hotel empire for one purpose. To get close to these men, to earn their trust, to lure them into my territory. The realization dawned on Samantha. This whole time, your business, your success was a means to an end. Kareem's voice hardened. Justice for my parents. Samantha felt a newfound respect mingling with apprehension. He'd completely misjudged Kareem. Beneath that arrogant billionaire facade was a man driven by the same burning need for truth that had consumed her life. I still think this is crazy, she finally said. Do you have a better plan? She didn't. Besides, Kareem added, you speak 6 languages and managed to disappear completely for 2 years. I suspect breaking into a hotel room isn't beyond your capabilities. Despite everything, Samantha found herself smiling. I never said I couldn't do it. I just said it was crazy. So, you'll help? Their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing between them. 2 people from different worlds connected by shared tragedy and a dangerous mission. Yes, she said at last. But we do this my way, clean, professional, with contingency plans for when, not if something goes wrong. Kareem nodded, respect evident in his gaze. Agreed. Ahmad entered the room, his expression grave. Sir, there's been a development. The police are at Ms. Adams's apartment. They've issued a warrant for her arrest in connection with Victor Caldwell's murder. Faster than I expected, Kareem murmured. Samantha felt the walls closing in. I need to leave the country. No, Kareem said firmly. That's exactly what they want, to flush you out, make you run. The moment you hit an airport or border crossing, they'll have you. So, I'm trapped? No, Kareem corrected. You're protected for now. This penthouse has a private elevator and security measures that would impress the Pentagon. No one gets in without my authorization. He approached her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood, and something uniquely his own. One night. Tomorrow we get the evidence, and then I'll have my jet ready to take us wherever we need to go. Samantha felt a strange flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with fear. Us. I started this hunt 10 years ago, Kareem said quietly. I intend to see it through to the end. The intensity in his eyes stirred something in her. something she'd thought long buried beneath layers of trauma and survival instinct. "One night," she agreed, stepping back slightly to break the tension. "But I'm not wearing a ball gown to commit felony breaking and entering." Kareem's smile returned, transforming his face. "Actually, that's exactly what you'll be wearing. The perfect disguise is often hidden in plain sight." For the first time in years, Samantha felt a spark of hope amidst the danger. Tomorrow would change everything one way or another. The sapphire gown shimmered under the chandeliers of the Falcon Hotel's grand ballroom. Samantha adjusted the delicate mask covering the upper half of her face, grateful for the anonymity it provided at this masquerade charity gala. From across the room, Kareem caught her eye, raising his champagne glass slightly in acknowledgement. He looked devastating in his tuxedo, his own black mask lending him an air of mystery that suited him perfectly. No one would guess that beneath their elegant exteriors, they were planning a high-stakes infiltration. "Remember," Ahmed's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece. "Bin Rashid arrived 10 minutes ago, Suite 4208. His security team has 4 men, 2 at the gala, 2 patrolling the executive floor." "Copy that," Samantha murmured, pretending to sip her champagne. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. As host, Kareem would keep Bin Rashid occupied at the gala. Samantha, introduced as Kareem's date, a French art dealer named Isabelle Lauren, would excuse herself, then use the security credentials Ahmad had prepared to access the executive floor. "Enjoying yourself, darling?" Kareem appeared at her side, placing a possessive hand at the small of her back. "Immensely," she replied, affecting a slight French accent. "Your charity events are always so stimulating." "Wait until the after-party," he murmured, his lips close to her ear. To onlookers, they appeared to be sharing an intimate moment. In reality, he was updating her. "Bin Rashid brought his entire entourage. Security is higher than we anticipated. Nothing I can't handle." Her confidence wasn't entirely feigned. The skills that had once made her an exceptional diplomatic translator, attention to detail, quick thinking, adaptability, had served her well during her 2 years on the run. "Of that I have no doubt." Something in his tone made her look up sharply. Their eyes met through their masks, and the genuine admiration she saw there caught her off guard. "Mr. Al-Fahad," a heavily accented voice interrupted them. "A magnificent event, as always." Kareem turned smoothly, his demeanor shifting to gracious host. "Mr. Bin Rashid, I'm honored you could attend." Mohammed bin Rashid was a striking figure, tall and lean with silver hair and a neatly trimmed beard. His eyes, however, were cold as they assessed Samantha. "And who is this enchanting creature?" "Isabelle Lauren," Kareem said, squeezing her hand in warning. "A dear friend from Paris." "Chantez," Samantha murmured, extending her hand. Bin Rashid brought it to his lips. "The pleasure is mine, mademoiselle." Something about his touch made her skin crawl, but she maintained her smile. This man had orchestrated the deaths of Kareem's parents, possibly her father, and countless others. "Isabelle is curating my new art collection," Kareem continued smoothly. "She has an exceptional eye for value indeed." Bin Rashid's gaze lingered on her. "Perhaps she might offer her opinion on some pieces I've recently acquired." "Another time, perhaps," Kareem intervened. "The auction is about to begin. Would you join me at the main table? You're seated at my right, of course." As they moved away, Bin Rashid glanced back at her. There was something in his expression, a flicker of recognition, that sent a chill down her spine. Ahmed's voice came through the earpiece. "The security shift change is happening. You have 12 minutes. Samantha waited 30 seconds, then made her way toward the exit, pausing to chat briefly with a waiter, establishing her presence in case anyone was watching. Once in the hallway, she moved quickly to the service elevator, swiping the security card Ahmad had provided. The executive floor was silent, the plush carpeting muffling her footsteps. Using the small tablet Ahmad had given her, she tracked the security guards' positions via the hotel system. 2 red dots moved along the west corridor, heading away from Bin Rashid's suite. "Perfect," Suite 4208 was secured with both a key card reader and a digital keypad. Ahmad had provided the override codes, assuring her they would work. Samantha held her breath as she entered the sequence, exhaling only when the light turned green and the lock disengaged with a soft click. Bin Rashid's suite was opulent, even by Falcon Hotel standards. A sprawling set of rooms with panoramic views of the Manhattan skyline. Samantha moved efficiently, searching for the briefcase Kareem had told her to find. Bin Rashid never traveled without it. A custom-made Hermes piece with distinctive gold hardware. She found it in the bedroom, locked inside the closet safe. The override code worked here too, and the safe door swung open to reveal the briefcase. "I found it," she whispered into her communicator. Beginning extraction. The briefcase was secured with a biometric lock, fingerprint and retinal scan. Normally impossible to bypass, but Ahmad had prepared for this. From her clutch, Samantha removed what looked like a compact mirror but was actually a specialized electronic device. When placed over the biometric scanner, it cycled through stored patterns until it found a match. 2 minutes, Ahmad warned in her ear. Guards are completing their rounds. The device beeped softly, and the briefcase clicked open. Inside were several folders and a small external hard drive. Samantha worked quickly, photographing each document with a miniature camera disguised as a lipstick tube, then downloading the contents of the hard drive to a duplicate that would leave no trace of the intrusion. What she saw made her blood run cold. Operation Sandstorm was far worse than they'd imagined. Not just a coup attempt, but a coordinated series of attacks designed to throw the entire region into chaos. The documents contained lists of operatives, financial transactions, weapons caches, and, most damning, communications with someone identified only as American Eagle Caldwell. The evidence was irrefutable: emails, photos, bank transfers, all linking Bin Rashid, Caldwell, and others to a conspiracy of staggering proportions. 30 seconds, Ahmad urged. Samantha finished the download, replaced everything exactly as she'd found it, and closed the briefcase. She returned it to the safe, reset the lock, and was halfway to the door when she heard voices in the corridor. "Check on the package before rejoining Mr. Bin Rashid." Guards coming to the suite. Samantha froze, calculating options. The bathroom was too obvious. Under the bed, juvenile. The balcony, possibly, but risky. 42 floors above Manhattan left little margin for error. The voices grew closer. The card reader beeped. In a split-second decision, Samantha slipped behind the heavy floor-length curtains just as the door opened. She controlled her breathing, standing perfectly still as footsteps entered the suite. 2 men speaking Arabic. One checked the safe, a routine security measure. The other moved around the sitting room. Neither approached the curtains, but Samantha's heart hammered as one paused nearby. "All secure," one finally said. "Let's get back downstairs." The door closed. Samantha waited 30 seconds before emerging, legs slightly shaky from the adrenaline. "Status?" Ahmed's voice was tense. "Mission accomplished," she whispered. "Heading back now." The return journey went smoothly, service elevator down to the mezzanine. Then a quick stop in the ladies' room to compose herself before rejoining the gala. Kareem found her immediately, his relief evident despite his mask. "Everything all right, darling?" He asked for the benefit of those nearby. "Perfect," she replied, smiling up at him. "Though I find myself with a bit of a headache. Perhaps we could leave soon?" "Of course." He signaled a waiter for champagne. "One last toast and we'll go." As they clinked glasses, Bin Rashid approached again, this time with a stunning woman on his arm. "Leaving so soon, Al-Fahad? The night is young." "Isabel isn't feeling well," Kareem explained smoothly. Bin Rashid's eyes narrowed slightly as he studied Samantha. "Have we met before, mademoiselle? Something about you seems familiar." Samantha's heart stuttered, but her smile never wavered. "I doubt it. I spend most of my time in Europe. Perhaps at the diplomatic reception in Geneva last year," he pressed. "I'm afraid not. I was in Barcelona that season." The lie came easily, her French accent impeccable. Something shifted in Bin Rashid's expression. suspicion giving way to certainty. "No," he said softly. "I remember now. It was Washington at the Saudi embassy." Ice flooded Samantha's veins. She had attended a function there during her UN days. Had he seen her? "You're mistaken," Kareem interjected. "Isabel has never been to Washington." Bin Rashid smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "My apologies, then. Memory can be deceptive." As they made their excuses and moved toward the exit, Samantha felt Bin Rashid's gaze following them. He knew somehow. He knew. In the limousine, she finally released the breath she'd been holding. "He recognized me." "Impossible," Ahmad said from the front seat. "Your disguise was perfect." He mentioned Washington, the Saudi embassy. She turned to Kareem. "I was there 3 years ago, translating for a UN delegation." Kareem's expression darkened. "If he knows who you are, then we've lost the element of surprise," she finished grimly. "Did you get what we needed?" Samantha nodded, removing the miniature camera and flash drive from her clutch. Everything in names, dates, plans, and proof that Caldwell was their American contact. "Then we still have leverage." Kareem took her hand, his touch unexpectedly gentle. "One more night. We compile the evidence, create insurance files, and tomorrow we take this to the one person who can help us." "Who?" "The current CIA director, my father's oldest friend." Hope flickered, then died. "If Bin Rashid recognized me, we may not have until tomorrow." As if confirming her fears, Ahmed's phone buzzed. His expression turned grim as he read the message. "Security breach at the penthouse," he reported. "Someone tried to override the elevator access." Kareem's grip on her hand tightened. "Change of plans. We're not going back to the penthouse." "Where then?" Samantha asked. A smile played at the corner of his mouth. "Somewhere they'd never look for a billionaire and a fugitive. My mother's old apartment in Queens. I kept it after she died. Never listed it under my name." As the limousine changed direction, heading toward the Queensboro Bridge, Samantha felt a strange sense of inevitability. In less than 24 hours, her world had been turned upside down yet again. But this time she wasn't running alone. She glanced at Kareem, finding him already watching her, his dark eyes intense. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. "You could have handed me over, saved yourself the trouble." "Because 10 years ago, I made a promise over my parents' graves to find the truth, no matter the cost." His voice dropped lower. "And because when you answered me in Arabic at the restaurant, I saw something in you that I recognize in myself." "What's that?" "Someone who refuses to be broken by circumstance." The simple truth of his words touched something deep within her. For the first time in years, Samantha felt truly seen. As the city lights blurred past the windows, she allowed herself to lean slightly against his shoulder. Tomorrow would bring either justice or ruin. But tonight, at least, she wasn't facing it alone. Dawn broke over the Queens neighborhood, painting the modest apartment in soft golden light. Samantha sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by printouts of the evidence they'd stolen. Beside her, Kareem reviewed financial records on his laptop, his suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, a far cry from the polished billionaire the world knew. Ahmad entered, setting down coffee and the burner phones he'd acquired overnight. "No signs of surveillance. The safe house is secure for now. We've worked through the night, organizing the evidence into an airtight case that even the most skeptical authorities couldn't ignore," Samantha murmured, sorting another document into her proof pile. "Director Harlow has confirmed the meeting," Kareem announced, checking one of the burners. "Noon today at the safe location." Samantha nodded, though anxiety gnawed at her. "If Bin Rashid has already realized who I am, we'll be long gone before he can act." Kareem countered her concerns, placing a hand over hers. The casual intimacy of the gesture surprised them both, but neither pulled away. The past 18 hours had forged a connection between them that defied explanation. Perhaps it was their shared mission or the parallel tragedies that had shaped their lives. Or perhaps it was something more primal, the recognition of a kindred spirit in the most unexpected place. "What happens after?" she asked quietly. If this works, if we bring them down, what then? Karim considered this, his expression thoughtful. I haven't allowed myself to think that far ahead. Revenge has been my purpose for so long. Their eyes met, unspoken possibilities hanging between them. Before Karim could answer, Ahmed's phone chimed. Perimeter alert, he said sharply, moving to the window. Black SUV. 2 men watching the building. How? Karim demanded. This address isn't connected to me in any way. Samantha's mind raced. The charity guest list. If bin Rashid has access to facial recognition software, he could have identified me despite the mask. And if they're monitoring financial transactions, the caterers, Karim realized. I had them deliver food here last night, paid from an account they could trace. We need to move now. Ahmad was already gathering the evidence, shoving it into a secure briefcase. They had prepared for this contingency. The apartment had 2 exits, the main door and a fire escape accessible through the bedroom window. Samantha quickly changed from her borrowed sweatpants and t-shirt into jeans and a hoodie, better suited for blending in and running if necessary. Karim emerged from the bedroom similarly dressed in casual clothes that would have been unrecognizable to anyone accustomed to seeing him in bespoke suits. With a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes and stubble darkening his jaw, he looked like an entirely different person. Director Harlow is sending a security team, he informed them, checking the second burner phone. ETA 20 minutes. We may not have 20 minutes, Ahmad warned, peering through the blinds. 2 more men just joined the first team. They're approaching the building. Samantha felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the same sensation that had kept her alive for 2 years on the run. The fire escape. We can reach the subway before they realize we're gone. And risk being separated? Karim shook his head. We stay together. There's no time to argue, Ahmad interrupted. They're inside the building. A decision was made in seconds. Ahmad would create a diversion at the front entrance while Samantha and Karim escaped via the fire escape with the evidence. They would meet Director Harlow at the backup location, a boathouse in Central Park that Harlow had used for off-the-books meetings for years. Be careful, Karim told Ahmad, clasping his shoulder. You, too, sir. Ahmad's usual formality slipped, revealing the friendship beneath their professional relationship. It has been an honor. Samantha felt a lump in her throat at the simple exchange. These men had risked everything, Karim's empire, Ahmad's career, their very lives, all for justice, for truth, for her. They moved swiftly to the fire escape, the metal creaking beneath their weight. 3 floors down, they heard shouting from above. Their pursuers had found the apartment. Move, Karim urged, helping her navigate the last ladder to the alley below. They ran, the briefcase of evidence clutched tightly in Samantha's arms. Karim knew these streets from his childhood visits to his mother's home, leading them through a maze of alleys and side streets to throw off any pursuit. The subway station appeared ahead, salvation in the form of crowded anonymity. They descended the stairs just as a train arrived, slipping inside as the doors closed. In the relative safety of the crowded car, Samantha allowed herself to breathe. Beside her, Karim checked his watch. 90 minutes until we meet Harlow. Will Ahmad be okay? He can take care of himself, though concern lingered in Karim's eyes. And he has diplomatic immunity through my company. They can detain him, but they can't hold him. The train rocked gently as it moved through the tunnel, the mundane normalcy of commuters around them a stark contrast to the life-and-death stakes of their mission. Thank you, Samantha said suddenly, for believing me, for helping me. Karim studied her face, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. I should be thanking you. For 2 years, I've been collecting evidence, building my case piece by piece, but it was you who found the final proof we needed. The tenderness in his touch, so at odds with the arrogant man she'd first met at the restaurant, made something flutter in her chest. How strange that, in the midst of danger, on the run for their lives, she should feel more alive than she had in years. If we survive this, she began hesitantly. When we survive this, he corrected. When we survive this, she amended with a small smile. What will you do? Go back to your hotels, your life? Kareem's expression grew serious. That life was built on a foundation of vengeance. Once that purpose is fulfilled, he shook his head. I don't know who I am without it. You're the man who turned $1 million bet into a mission for justice, Samantha offered. The man who saw value in a waitress when others saw only someone to be dismissed. His smile transformed his face, erasing years of hardened determination. And you are the woman who refused my $1 million on principle, who survived alone for 2 years rather than compromise her integrity. The train slowed as it approached the next station. Through the windows they could see the greenery of Central Park. Their destination was close. They exited cautiously, scanning for any signs of pursuit. The park stretched before them, seemingly peaceful on this spring morning. They walked briskly, taking indirect routes, frequently changing direction to ensure they weren't followed. The boathouse appeared ahead, its classic architecture reflected in the calm water of the lake. Outside, 2 inconspicuous men in casual clothes, Harlow's security team, stood watch. They nodded slightly as Kareem and Samantha approached, a prearranged signal that the area was secure. Inside, Director Harlow waited, a tall, imposing figure with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. He embraced Kareem like a son. You look just like your father, he said gruffly. Director Harlow. Kareem's voice held deep respect. Thank you for coming. When the son of Ibrahim Al-Fahad calls with evidence of a terrorist plot, I listen. Harlow turned to Samantha, recognition dawning in his eyes. And Samantha Adams, you've been a ghost for 2 years. Not by choice, she replied. Your father was one of the best agents I ever knew, Harlow said. His death never sat right with me. It wasn't a heart attack, Samantha stated flatly. I'm beginning to understand that. Harlow gestured to a table. Show me what you have. For the next 30 minutes, they laid out the evidence piece by piece. Operation Sandstorm in its entirety. The planned attacks, the financial network, the operatives embedded in governments across the Middle East, and, most damning, Victor Caldwell's role as their American handler. Harlow's expression grew increasingly grave. This goes deeper than I imagined. He looked up at them. You realize what this means, the implications that elements within our own government have been compromised. Kareem confirmed that Victor Caldwell wasn't acting alone. And bin Rashid has powerful allies who will try to bury this, Samantha added. Harlow nodded slowly. Which is why we need to move immediately. I have a safe house prepared for both of you while we implement the takedown operation. Both of us? Samantha questioned. You'll need to testify, Harlow explained. And until we've identified and neutralized all of bin Rashid's network, you remain in danger. Kareem took her hand, his eyes asking a silent question. She nodded slightly in response. They were in this together to the end. What about the charges against Samantha? Kareem asked. Already handling it. Harlow assured them. The evidence you've provided clearly implicates bin Rashid's team in framing her for Caldwell's murder. A commotion outside interrupted them. Raised voices, then silence. One of Harlow's security men entered, his expression urgent. Sir, Ahmad Al-Zurani is here. He says it's critical. Ahmad burst in, blood streaking one side of his face. They know, he gasped. Bin Rashid is gone. Fled the country an hour ago, but he activated sleeper cells before leaving. They're targeting the UN General Assembly session today. Harlow was immediately on his phone, issuing rapid-fire orders for evacuation and counterterrorism protocols. How did you find us? Kareem demanded, supporting Ahmad into a chair. Director Harlow's team extracted me from the apartment, Ahmad explained, wincing as Samantha examined his head wound. Superficial, he assured her. The next hour passed in a blur of activity as Harlow coordinated a massive security operation. Thanks to the evidence Samantha and Kareem had provided, authorities knew exactly where to look, who to arrest, what to prevent. By midday, news broke of a foiled terrorist plot and the arrest of multiple suspects. Bin Rashid himself had escaped justice for now, but his network was. His world was falling apart. His assets were frozen solid, and every single one of his so-called allies was facing an investigation. Operation Sandstorm? Neutralized. It never even got a chance to unleash chaos across the Middle East. It's over, Harlow finally told them. Well, not completely. These things never really are, but the immediate threat? Contained. Absolutely. And Caldwell's co-conspirators within the government? Samantha pressed, needing to know. Were they being dealt with at the highest levels? Harlow's grim face made it clear that a reckoning was coming. But it would all happen behind closed doors, far from prying eyes. Now, he said, changing the subject. About that safe house. Actually, Kareem interrupted, a glint in his eye. I have an alternative proposal. 3 months later, Samantha stood on the deck of a sleek yacht. They were anchored just off the Amalfi Coast. The Mediterranean Sea sparkled all around her, its deep blue waters a world away from Manhattan restaurants and international conspiracies. Arms snaked around her from behind, and she leaned back into Kareem's warm embrace. Regretting your decision? He murmured against her hair, his voice a low rumble. Samantha turned in his arms, looking up at the man who, in what felt like a heartbeat, had gone from being an arrogant stranger to an absolutely essential partner. Which one are we talking about? She asked, tilting her head. Testifying against international terrorists? Going into witness protection? Or agreeing to marry you? His smile still had the power to completely steal her breath. All of the above, he confessed, his eyes twinkling. Not for a second, she said, shaking her head. She rose on her tiptoes to kiss him, then added, though I am still getting used to being Isabel Lauren. Only on paper, he reminded her, cupping her face in his hands. To me, you'll always be the waitress who turned down $1 million, and you'll always be the entitled billionaire who learned humility through justice. Their new identities, a courtesy of Director Harlow and the Witness Protection Program, were a small price to pay for safety and peace of mind. Kareem had relinquished day-to-day control of his massive hotel empire, though he still maintained ownership through layers of security so complex that even bin Rashid's remaining allies couldn't even begin to think of penetrating them. Ahmed had made a full recovery. He was now heading security for their foundation, the Adam Zalahad Initiative for International Peace. The initiative was funded, ironically, by the very $1 million that had started it all. Justice had been served, though not perfectly. Some conspirators had managed to escape, and others had been protected out of political necessity. But the truth was out in the open. Their fathers' legacies had been honored, and the longest-running operation of betrayal in Middle Eastern politics had finally been exposed. Any regrets? Kareem asked, his voice turning more serious. Your life in New York? Your career? My life as a waitress hiding from assassins? She laughed, the sound light and airy. Not exactly a difficult choice now, is it? The sun was setting over the Mediterranean, painting the sky in breathtaking shades of gold and crimson. In just a few days, they would be married in a small, private ceremony with Ahmed and a few other trusted friends in attendance. Life had taken her on a wild ride, from diplomatic translator to fugitive waitress to the fiancée of a reformed billionaire with a newfound passion for justice. It definitely wasn't the path she'd imagined for herself, but standing there in Kareem's arms, Samantha knew without a doubt that it was exactly where she belonged. You never did tell me, she said suddenly, a playful glint in her eyes. That night at the restaurant when you offered me $1 million, did you ever imagine it would end like this? Kareem smiled, drawing her even closer. Honestly? No. But I'm beginning to think it was the best investment I ever made. As their lips met, Samantha silently agreed. Some things were worth far more than $1 million. Things like truth, justice, and a love that had begun with an arrogant challenge in a bustling New York restaurant and culminated in redemption on the sun-kissed shores of the Mediterranean. Sometimes, the most unexpected beginnings truly do lead to the most perfect endings.